Hello and welcome back to another episode of a weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing more Fortnite, or if you're watching this sometime in the future, more of the hashtag Fortnite OG season, which is when they decided to bring back a bunch of stuff. Yeah, the replay's slightly fucked for the gliding portion of the video anyway. I'm not sure why it did this. As you can see, I tried to fix it, but that's not really important. This is one of the games I had with Reese and Molly last night. It's not a particularly amazing one. Only 4 of our many matches saved as replays for some reason, and this one was the length which I wanted it to be for an episode of Weekly Waypoint. Well, actually, it was a couple of minutes shorter, but who's counting? On the previous episode of Weekly Waypoint, which featured Fortnite, I mentioned that I wasn't sure if I was going to get into the OG season at all, but actually I have, as you can probably see by the skin I'm wearing, finished the Battle Pass. It is like a half-size Battle Pass, to be fair. But yeah, I've had some fun. It's been pretty fun revisiting the map. I understand it a bit more now. I was confused about what era of a map it was. For some reason I thought like Chapter 1 was like Chapter 0, and then like when they rebooted the world for Chapter 2, that was Chapter 1. I don't know what I was doing. I was just misremembering it pretty fantastically. I'm very curious about the next season of Fortnite. They have a Lego llama, which would imply that there's going to be some Lego shenanigans about. What I want is a full Lego island. I will not settle for anything less. If it is anything less, I will be immeasurably disappointed. I want Lego out the wazoo. I love Lego. Lego's great. Of course, given that all the... I mean, we don't know what the skins look like yet, but given that not all the assets which have been teased are Lego, I'm sure that's not the case. But yeah, you know, I've been having some fun with Fortnite lately. There you go. There's the Fortnite section of video. The first thing we'll talk about this week is Doctor Who, because obviously I've talked about the episode of Doctor Who. Obviously, if you want to see my thoughts on it, go to the video called Meep Thoughts on Doctor Who. That will be where I talk full spoilers, and there will be no spoilers in this video, don't worry, but that's where I talk full spoilers about the latest episode of Doctor Who, which just came out, the latest special. We've got 3 of these, so you're probably going to be hearing more of these little sections in the Weekly Waypoint and seeing more of those videos. But just to talk more generally about it, I've been so fucking delighted. Like, I'm one of those fans of Doctor Who who will watch it no matter what, like, who will find something to enjoy about it no matter what. And before the new episode aired on Saturday night, I actually went back and rewatched Power of a Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's last episode, and I had a lot of fun watching it, honestly. Like, yeah, if I had my critical eye on, I could have picked it apart, but I didn't. I was just enjoying Doctor Who, and this is something I've noticed with modern Doctor Who as well, like, especially during Capaldi and Jodie's eras. I don't know why I used Capaldi's last name and Jodie's first name. I noticed about myself that every time there was a new episode on, I was trying to kind of predict where it was going to go, what it was going to lead into. I always had like hopes of where they could take it, stories that I wanted them to pursue, and therefore I always felt mildly disappointed when none of that ended up happening and they did something completely new and unique instead. But when you rewatch those episodes, you know what those episodes are, and so that part of yourself can be left at the door, and I think it's actually more fun to rewatch those old episodes than it is to see them for the first time, at least those 2 eras. And I'm hoping that's not still going to be the case going forwards, because I like new Doctor Who episodes. It certainly wasn't the case with this week's episode. But yeah, I'm just thrilled. All I want to talk about with Doctor Who is I'm having such a good time. I'm having such a lovely time with Doctor Who being back, and David Tennant and Catherine Tate being back, and the episode was good. You know, I'm not giving any spoilers, but if you want like spoiler-free impressions on the episode, it was really fun and really good, and I loved every second of it. I've also been continuing my classic Doctor Who watch through because I was like, well, I've got no more Doctor Who to watch, so I'm going to go back to William Hartnell again. That means that this week you can expect a thoughts per episode on the Web Planet, although heads up, I do change up the formatting of my thoughts per episode of classic Doctor Who. Previously I was watching an episode, stopping, recording my thoughts about it before going on to the next episode. I find that to be a very inefficient and kind of like weird process that nobody else does, and I actually just decided to wait until I watched the entire serial to talk about it as a whole, and I think it turned out better. I hope you'll agree. But yeah, now I'm halfway through the Space Museum. I'm hoping to watch the Toymaker, or the episode, the serial that he's in. I forget if it's called the Toymaker. I know that there's a Tales of a TARDIS based around it, so I'll probably watch that version of it. But yeah, I'm hoping to see that before the 3rd special 2 weeks from now, because that obviously has the return of a Toymaker. But yeah, basically Doctor Who. I'm still holding out hope that we see like a surprise appearance from like Paul McGann or Jodie Whittaker or something in one of these specials. I think that would be pretty cool. Dream scenario, Paul McGann shows up and they set up a Paul McGann spin-off show. That is what I would like. I would like to see some 8th Doctor adventures on the screen, please. I also think it'd be really wacky if they had 14 run into 10, so that there's just 2 different David Tennants interacting. I don't know how feasible that would be. Obviously, 10 is a younger version of 14, so I don't know how feasible that would be to pull off, but I just... All I know is that they've said that next week's episode is Russell T Davies off the leash, that it's like completely unhinged and completely balmy and weird and nuts, and I'm like, what does that even mean? So I'm like, what if we had 14 and 10 meet? That would be pretty weird. It's probably not that. I'm going to stop talking about Doctor Who now, because there's other things to discuss, and you might not even care about Doctor Who, but it's basically just where my brain's been all week. Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. Okay, so going back to last week when we were talking about the Game Awards, you may remember that I mentioned that I had an original commentary track which I deleted because it was basically me panicking about FOMO in terms of experiencing popular video games in time to write my Game of the Year listings, basically. I want to touch on that a little bit more because basically what I've been doing, and this is kind of a time of year when people tend to do this, is I have been revisiting some of those games that I started this year and never really got the time to finish, which means I've been playing Sea of Stars, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Final Fantasy 1. Sea of Stars is the one I think I'm most likely to end up bouncing off of, through no detriment of the game's own, but just like I can't keep up with these 3 adventures all at the same time, you know what I mean? I'll definitely get back to Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars is fantastic and everyone should play it. I really like it. I'm just gonna be a complete hypocrite based on what I started this portion with, but I wish they made more games like Sea of Stars. It feels like they don't make these traditional like top-down retro pixel like turn-based RPGs anymore, and Sea of Stars proves that they can still be made and they can still be really fun. I think the problem with Sea of Stars is I've yet to hit a point where the story's really got that interesting. I'm still pretty much in the introductory phase. I'm at a point, not to spoil anything, where the main characters have kind of like set out on their journey and passed a trial and ended up at what is probably like the first location of the proper open world. And I do want to make time to continue with that, but I've also been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, and I am in chapter 5 of that game now, so I'm guessing I'm a little bit under halfway through. And I really love that game. It has some moments where like the dialogue gets a little cringe or whatever, and some of the wackiness comes off a little bit cringy instead. But for the most part, I really do like it. Like, the thing that surprised me most about Yakuza Like a Dragon, when I first played it earlier this year, was that it wasn't just like, oh, it's like a comedic take on, you know, the reason I didn't like South Park, The Stick of Truth. It's like making fun of RPGs and it's a funny take on it. No, it's also a legitimate RPG. And you can say the same thing for the narrative, like, oh, it's probably just going to be like a comedy set in the Yakuza world. It's like, no, there's also some really legitimate dramatic shit which happens. Like, the comedy behind it, like the spoofing of the RPG and the comedy tone of the story is the quirk of the game. And the game is like 50% quirk, 50% drama, and I love it for that. I really want to take the time to try and finish this game and then start the Yakuza series properly, because my main concern is the main character of the mainline Yakuza series shows up as a party member in the Like a Dragon sequel, which means I'm worried about spoilers for the mainline series if I just continue with the Like a Dragon series. So it's so much game. I know it's going to be such a long project to like play all of these Yakuza games, and I don't even like the action combat in those games that much. But you know, like, I think the turn-based stuff is really, in Like a Dragon, is probably my flavour of Yakuza, to be honest. But as long as they all stay on Game Pass, I think I'm going to try and work my way through them, because I have played some Yakuza 0 and I did really like it for a lot of the same reasons why I like a Dragon. I don't know if I'm going to be making videos in that series yet. I have been taking some clips, but not really enough to like kind of retell the story in a video, if you know what I mean. But yeah, definitely going to try and play some more of that before the year is out. Maybe even finish it? Huh? Question mark? Maybe not. I don't know. Because I also just bought Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster. Earlier this year, I was playing the PSP remaster or remake of Final Fantasy 1, and I was having a really good time with it. I have 3 retro mode videos on that little journey I went through, and pretty much all year I've been meaning to pick it up again, but I've also been kind of fascinated by the Pixel remasters. And, you know, there are people who like one version, there's people who like another version, and there's about 50 other versions that people also like. I've been really torn on whether to continue the PSP version or whether to start picking up the Pixel remasters, because the Pixel remasters are the more modern version, versions. They're the ones with, you know, achievements. I like collecting achievements in games. I think it's a fun little progression driver. But yeah, I basically decided to pick up Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, continue, or I guess restart my journey on that one, and then I'll pick up the videos where I left off. So it's going to be kind of a weird video series because it's going to suddenly transition into the Pixel Remaster versions. But to compare the two, now that I've played a similar amount of both of those games, I prefer the kind of like overworld detail and the sprite design of the PSP remake, simply because it's higher quality. It's, you know, like, the Pixel Remasters are very much based on the original, like, 8-bit system that it was designed on, which means the sprites are smaller and there's less detail in the overworld. However, the battle scenes and the music... Sorry, that's my... that was my console that darkened today. The battle scenes and the music I do prefer in the Pixel Remaster. The battle scenes give you a better sense of place in terms of a background. I still think the monster sprites are better for the more detail they have in the PSP version, but they're still pretty cool here as well. I really want to play my way through all 6 Pixel Remasters, by the way. I think I might be the kind of Final Fantasy RPG fan who prefers the first 6 kind of like traditional style RPGs to the ones that came 7 and onwards. I've tried so many times to get into 7. I did enjoy what I played of a remake, but I have not played enough of the remake to formulate a solid opinion. But yeah, beyond that, beyond me wondering why I never finish any RPGs and then deciding to play 3 different RPGs simultaneously, mostly I've just been continuing to play World of Warcraft, you know, Fortnite and Halo Infinite. In World of Warcraft, I'm enjoying making alts and leveling them up. I'm at a place where I'm remembering that I really enjoy gearing at endgame, because I talk so much about how I love leveling alts and how I love collecting transmog. I do, when it's a good patch, I do also love, you know, exploring the endgame zone and gearing up in LFR and stuff. I'm an LFR Andy, and I love the prospect of trying to have one of each class at endgame level and running their raids each week. Obviously, I'm going to burn out long before I achieve that goal, but, you know, it's a pretty fun thing to push for, and it's not something I've really desired to push for since Legion, but it's probably a good sign that I actually want to do that again. It's probably a good sign for the alt-friendly nature of the game at the minute as well, and it's only going to get better from here. But I think the closest I got was like 6 or 7 classes at max level back in Legion. Right now, I am at 2, but leveling's pretty damn fast at the minute, and, you know, I have a pretty solid foot in the door with all of these old, like, they're probably like level 50s now. So yeah, all in all, I've had a pretty decent week. I've been fairly depressed recently, and it's nice to be able to enjoy things again. I feel like some of that is really starting to lift, because after all, who needs, you know, the National Health Service to look after your mental health when Russell T Davies is writing Doctor Who again and Chris Metzen is behind World of Warcraft again, you know? Like, honestly, that's all the medication I really need. That and friendship and love and all that mushy stuff. Speaking of mushy stuff, not to spoil a video, but this banana is about to go everywhere. Watch out for your monitors, clean up any leftover banana pieces. Lil Split didn't make it. Thank you very much for watching, I'll see you next week.